Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio. And now, here is Walter Bingham.
Hello and welcome to this very special program for July 20th, 2021, the 11th day of the Hebrew month of Av, 5781. I am Walter Bingham. 2 days ago, we have remembered and lamented the numerous disasters that have befallen the Jewish people on and around the 9th day of the month of Av, Tisha B'Av, through the ages. This program is special because as recent as 2005, on the day after Tisha B'Av, the 15th of August in that year, we suffered another catastrophe in the long history of disasters that the Jewish people suffered at this time of year. The expulsion of 8,500 Jewish men, women and children from the homes in Gush Katif, and their dead exhumed from the cemeteries. On the orders of our own government of the day, it was the same date on which both the first and the second temple were destroyed. Solomon's temple by the Neo-Babylonian Empire in 586 before the Common Era, and the second temple by the Roman Empire in the year 70 of the Common Era. Here is a short list of events that demonstrate this fateful week for the Jewish people. The expulsion of Jews from England in 1290 took place on the 9th of Av. The expulsion of Jews from France in 1306 took place on the 10th of Av. The expulsion of Jews from Spain in 1492 was on the 7th of Av. And the approval for the final solution of the Jewish question was signed in 1941 on the 9th of Av. The liquidation of the Warsaw Ghetto and the mass deportation to Auschwitz was on the 23rd of July 1942, the 9th of Av. That shows we have good reason to remember and lament the 9th of Av as the saddest day in the history of our people.
And I wished that today, when we are in the early stages of rebuilding Eretz Israel, it were possible to report to you on matters that would ease the pain. But I can't.
We have to go into a break, but please keep it here.
Israel is located in one of the most volatile areas in the world. Israel is an island of stability in a sea of war and unrest. In the midst of this turmoil, Israel stands out as a beacon of order and human progress. Each week we update you on what's happening in this, the Jewish state, a true light unto the nations. This is Jay Shapiro. Join me every Thursday on Israel News Talk Radio.
And now, here is Walter Bingham.
I wished that today, when we are in the early stages of rebuilding Eretz Israel, it were possible to report to you on matters that would ease the pain. But I can't. Too many unpleasant things are happening around us, both in the world at large, with the renewed upsurge of anti-Semitism, and certainly here in Israel. You would never have thought it possible, but Israel is fast sinking into the abyss of government corruption, brutal policing, and adulterated jurisprudence, which makes a mockery of her claim to be the only democracy in the Middle East.
Just July the 15th, 2021, an ex-minister was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment for bribery. This extended program brings you events that led up to the expulsion from Gush Katif in 2005, followed by the largest prayer meeting ever to have taken place in Israel at the Western Wall in Jerusalem to try and avert the evil decree by Prime Minister Sharon.
The most high-profile allegations of corruption are against our own Prime Minister,
Sharon,
with new accusations leveled against him almost weekly. His son Omri has already been indicted for his implication in a corrupt business deal, taking the fall for his father, who is alleged to be the instigator. Policing has succumbed to double standards. Religious profiling is frequently happening, singling out for harassment and arrests and even brutality at the whim of individual officers, those males wearing skull caps and other items of dress pointing to religious observance, and females dressed similarly. Hence they are labeled anti-disengagement activists. The Business Data Index, checked and backed by the Bank of Israel, places the credibility of Israel's justice and law enforcement system at a low 74.4%. The global average of developed countries is 90.3%, with the Netherlands at the top with 92.2%. The Government Corruption Index rates both perceptions about the government's use of authority and the practice of public officials exploiting their position for personal gain. Israel received a rating of 80.8%, far behind the 91.4% average for developed countries. Only Italy's rate of 74.9% was lower than Israel's. One of the most disgraceful acts perpetrated by the Israeli judicial system is the prolonged imprisonment prior to a trial of children and young teenagers for their presence at road blockings or other illegal protests. There have been a number of such cases, one which has produced outrage and revulsion in all circles of Israeli society, from the right and left of the political spectrum, from young and old, pro or anti-disengagement. That's the incarceration of Moriah Goldberg, aged 13, Chaya Belogorodsky, aged 14, and Penina Ashkenazi, aged 16, charged with disrupting public order and insulting a police officer, and held in jail until their trial date, which is fixed for August 21st. They've been in jail since June 29. For such charges, the accused are usually bailed. There have been several petitions submitted to the courts and demonstrations held, both outside the prison and at the High Courts of Justice in Jerusalem, but all without success. The reason given for not at least ordering house arrest of these children is that both parents are unfit for custody. One might immediately come to the conclusion that they are criminals, drug addicts, or known for child abuse. Not so. In the case of Chaya, the father is held to be irresponsibly influencing her against the disengagement plan, and the mother simply because she lives in Gush Katif. Both are very unconvincing reasons. The court's alternative offer, to be held in prison pending the conclusion of the case, is to take the youngsters far away from ideological anti-disengagement influences into the custody of a kibbutz for re-education. The word re-education sends a shudder through my spine because it reminds me of the Nazis. They have, of course, not accepted this. I'm glad to say that public pressure, and that by health and law professionals, has finally worked, and the girls have left prison on condition that they stay together in the home of one of the grandparents for 1 week and then remain in their own homes under house arrest until the time of the trial. Despite that, I bring you now a report of the weekly demonstration for the release from prison of protesters against the evil decree, because others are still incarcerated.
We are talking about the days before the expulsion from Gush Katif, one day after Tisha B'Av in 2005.
It is now 11:15 at night on Motzei Shabbat, on Saturday night, and I am outside Maseyahu prison near Ramle in Israel, where innocent people are imprisoned for demonstrating because here in Israel, at this time, under the dictatorship of Ariel Sharon, we are not able to exercise democracy. There are about 2,000 people here, and more are still arriving. It is a disgrace. Inside, among the other prisoners, there are 3 children, 3 young girls, aged 13, 14, and 16. They've been there for, must have been all of 6 weeks, simply for demonstrating and for blocking roads. They are kept in prison as a punishment without trial. It is amazing how many people make the journey from many parts of Israel, from all over the place, to be here at midnight and show the authorities that we do not tolerate and not appreciate imprisonment without trial for even minor offenses. 2 of the loudspeakers are so positioned that they beam towards the prison block, so that the prisoners can hear how the people feel, how they are being supported by the masses and what the speakers have to say, so that they are encouraged when they are inside and know that they are not alone, that thousands of people are with them, at least in spirit, that thousands of people feel with them their pain at being imprisoned and separated from their families. This demonstration has been for the last 7 or 9 Saturday nights, and it will go on every Saturday night until the system has changed and people are no longer imprisoned for nothing or for minor offenses.
In this case, we are talking about peaceful demonstrators against the expulsion of Jews from their homes in Gush Katif.
It is interesting to note that the support for this vigil, this demonstration, comes not only from the religious sector, but from all sectors of society. There are people here who are secular, there are people here who are modern Orthodox, and of course they are the very Orthodox Haredim. One of the speakers earlier on supporting this rally was the son of the Bostoner Rabbi. That shows that the support for these injustices has spread throughout society. And those on the inside, they heard what is being said and they replied by shouting, and we heard them, and they know that they are not alone. What is so amazing here is that there is a minimal police presence. I've counted maybe 25 policemen. That shows that the police knows full well that it is an orderly crowd, a peaceful crowd, a crowd that just wants to show what they feel. And that really goes for all the demonstrations. Of course, you get an odd bad egg, but that goes for all the demonstrations at which the police really overreacts, and sometimes with cruelty. Here, I'm glad to say, they're standing in the corners quite a long way away from the crowd, and hopefully listen to what is being said and maybe take some of it in themselves. Here is a gentleman, he's holding up a banner, and the banner says the government is the enemy of the Jewish people. Why do you think that?
Because it's a secular against religious war. If the secular people had occupied, so to speak, Gush Katif, there would never be this insane move to throw them out.
But there is a large support from the secular section of the population for the anti-disengagement lobby.
Those who are not in power, of course. Those who are not in power. The government is basically secular. And the government has created 2 classes of Jews in this country. Theirs and the other kind. And the other kind, they don't matter. So if you take away their homes, if you evict them without due compensation, if you disrupt their families, if you do violence to them, This is of no concern to this heartless government.
But there is compensation. Would it not have been more important to have prepared some houses and some villages for them rather than the compensation? Because that is an accusation of the pro-disengagement lobby, that all they want is a lot of money.
Well, of course, I've made the argument backwards. The most important thing is this is dividing the country. This is an existential threat to the unity and security of the country. No country throws its own people out, and we're certainly not occupiers. When you're a victorious people, when you've been invaded and you conquer, these are conquered lands, not occupied lands.
Well, let us hope that this expulsion plan will indeed not come to pass, because the groundswell of grassroots objection.
Back with more after this short break.
The Tamar Yona Show.
Tamar? She's sassy.
She's smart.
She's funny.
But she's also a real Jewish mother.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tamar Yona. And yes, I can be all of those things, but at Israel News Talk Radio, I'm here to bring you the news stories and guests that you may not hear anywhere else. Join me live on air Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays for the most unique and bold talk radio in Israel.
The Tamar Yona Show.
Shalom, I'm Leah Aharoni. Join me on my show, News from the Torah. Each Sunday, we'll use the weekly Torah portion as a prism for understanding the news today. Listen to News from the Torah to gain clarity about the times we're living in and to understand your own spiritual path in the process. News from the Torah, every Sunday on Israel News Talk Radio.
And now, here is Walter Bingham.
I am outside Masyahu prison and listening to the views of one of the demonstrators on the expulsion of Jews from Gush Katif.
To throw those people out is a blow to Zionism, a blow to hope, a blow to the future. And there's nothing to be gained. I believe that the sole reason seems to be to prevent Mr. Sharon from being indicted. So he rigged the election, and he threw out the ministers, and he denied a referendum, and he manipulated the Knesset, all in the aim of keeping himself out of jail. It seems to me that at the end of this, he should be declared a war criminal and tried and put in jail if he's convicted.
Thank you very much. Well, here's a lady. It's now early in the morning already. What made you give up your night to be here?
I had no problem coming. It's a very profound wish to identify. And it's my very modest way of protesting the terrible, unjust behavior and conduct of the government. I'm terribly upset about it. I'm very perturbed about it. I have a boy in the army, and I just don't know what I can do about it. And I've been in a It's my very, very little contribution. I don't do very much, but that's about what I can do.
Is your son in the south of the country? Is he going to be sent to help in the expulsion?
I figure he's going to be at Gaza, but he's pretty sure that he won't be dealing with the Jews, thank God. I'm glad for him, because it would just be too hard for him.
What do you think of the imprisonment of children without trial?
I think it's disgusting, it's so wrong, and one day it's going to hit us back in the face. I have no word for it. I'm ashamed. I'm an Israeli citizen, and I'm deeply, deeply ashamed of the way the government works, the way the media works, the way the justice works. It's just, I feel as if I've been transported to Russia. I have no word for it. I'm so deeply ashamed. I always had confidence in whatever went on here. I was always a citizen that had a lot of confidence and and gave a lot of credit to the government. I'm really depressed about it. There's no other word.
Who do you think should be the Prime Minister today?
I don't know. I don't know. The truth is, I don't have much confidence in the politicians anymore.
Thank you very much. I venture to say that the view expressed by this lady is today held by a majority in the country. There is no longer confidence in the government or the judiciary that ruled the three girls to be a threat to democracy. The actions of Israel's government are those of a fledgling dictatorship with a power-crazy prime minister at the top who, if he is not removed from office, will endanger this country to the point of ruin. In his letter of resignation from the government, Benjamin Netanyahu wrote, and I quote, "It is becoming clear that the unilateral withdrawal under fire is not giving us a thing. The opposite is true. It undermines the security of Israel, splits the nation, entrenches the principle of withdrawal to the 1967 borders, which are not defensible, and is not the way to achieve peace." End of quote. It is high time for a general election. Earlier this week, Israel's state president Moshe Katsav and Sephardi chief Rabbi Shlomo Amar accompanied the Muslim mayor of Shfaram and local Christian and Muslim community leaders to pay condolence calls
to the Arab
families of those who were killed by an Israeli soldier in a shooting attack last week on a bus in Shfaram. I can fully understand the rationale behind this. It was to appease the affected communities and to prevent any riots both against their Jewish neighbors and in other areas of the country. What I cannot understand is that it was immediately and unequivocally condemned by the Prime Minister as a terrorist attack. And, of course, his lackeys, most of the Israeli press and radio, followed suit. One would have thought that judgment on the motives would have been reserved until the full facts about the soldier have been thoroughly investigated. Since then, it has transpired that his mother has asked the IDF to withdraw his weapon from him, and that would point to the fact that she thought he had a serious problem. But the IDF didn't take note of that mother's instinct. One report stated that on other occasions he was twice investigated by the IDF without any action being taken. So it is obvious that his condemnation as Jewish terrorist and his description as newly religious extremist was not only premature, but in my view a deliberate political ploy to discredit the actions of all religious opponents of the disengagement expulsion plan. Some commentators have even gone as far as to suggest that this soldier was impressionable enough to be indoctrinated by agents provocateurs to commit such an act. One thing is certain. This government will employ any tricks in the book, however dirty, to get its way. It also kept completely silent on the despicable act of abandoning this soldier to be lynched by a mob after he was handcuffed and in Israeli police custody. And that is recorded on video footage and warrants an official inquiry by a parliamentary committee at least. And finally, will President Katsav and the chief rabbi, or indeed the Prime Minister, visit the family of the lynched soldier, or the family of the 10-year-old boy who was shot in the head the following day by an Arab terrorist and is critically ill, or the families of other victims of Arab terrorism? I suppose there is not enough political mileage in that, and certainly no international acclaim that these men so eagerly crave.
We don't often speak to Colorado, but we will today because there is a group there that is active for Gush Katif. On the phone from Denver is Dr. Neil Dubrow, who is the organizer.
Walter, good morning from here.
Good morning to you and welcome to... Well, it's time for Marif here almost. How is life in Denver?
Very good and very exciting today with the upcoming events on Monday night in support for Gush Katif and Northern Shomron.
Well, do you have a large Jewish community there?
Well, the Jewish community in Denver is about 60,000, but we're blessed with a Christian community that is very sympathetic to our cause and is pitching in a big way to help make this rally a success.
Oh, wonderful. Are the community generally interested in what goes on here?
Oh, I think very much so. We've had a history of having rallies for Israel And I think the community keeps a close watch of the events that go on there and are very supportive of Israelis and the defense of Israel.
Well, I'm very glad to learn that there's a sizable number of people who are committed to Eretz Israel and to its security. But I guess there are also people who are not so happy about what we are about to do, about the rallies and about our campaigns.
Yes, well, there's also a sizable contingent, especially in the established professional Jewish community, who oppose what we're doing and support the government in an unquestioning way. And we understand, in their own way, they're good Zionists, and they're doing what they think is best for Israel, but we have to part company on this issue and disagree with them and carry on what we need to do.
I think most people who don't visit regularly, and certainly those who don't live here or have relatives here, don't really know how we feel about the whole thing.
Well, not only in Israel, but it's very important to visit Gush Katif itself, which I did this past year in March. And it was a real awakening for me also. I know that other people in our group have had the same experience, including, I understand, some Christians who have gone to Gush Katif.
Yeah, well, we have very many Christian groups. In actual fact, during the highest period of the Second Intifada, I don't like that word, but there it is, we had very many large Christian groups visiting, and Jews stayed away, which is rather sad.
Yes.
Now,
yes, it's unfortunate.
I believe your event is on Monday night. Tell me about that.
It's Monday night at 8 p.m. It'll be in the west steps of the Colorado State Capitol, the site of many previous rallies in support of Israel. It will be a candlelight prayer gathering and rally for Israel. We've bought several hundred candles, and we will have speakers from the elected government of Colorado. We have two speakers from the House of Representatives. The treasurer of Jefferson County is going to speak. Pastor Cheryl Morrison, who is the head of the largest Christian church in Colorado, will speak. And we're very honored to have a live on-the-scene report from former minister and member of the Knesset, Rabbi Benny Alon, who will be speaking to us by cell phone from Morag, if all goes well.
That's wonderful. How many people do you expect will attend your rally?
Well, it's very hard to gauge. I tell you, when we started this 5 or 6 weeks ago, some of us got together and said, well, listen, even if we get 50 or 100 people, it'll be fine, it'll be worth it. But we now know it's going to certainly exceed that by several times.
Now, I know that you have some ideas of your own, that it's still possible to stop this evil plan, even at this late hour. Tell me about that.
Absolutely. There are many of us, and in fact most of the leadership, that definitely believe that this plan can be stopped. Look, the conditions that I saw when I was in Gush Katif in March have changed completely. We now have a proven, very solid resistance on the part of the residents who are showing the world that they will be dragged from their homes rather than go quietly. You know, the original government estimate was that 80% of the residents would be gone. Instead of 80% being gone, maybe 100 families or 150 families have left, and 2,000 or 3,000 other people have moved in to more than take their place. So it's going to be a massive undertaking that the government didn't expect. Secondly, we have an international protest movement supporting them, and we in Colorado want to be a part of that. Thirdly, we've got important segments of the established government, including in the Likud party, now splitting away from Sharon. That's a very important poll. And also, I think the Arabs will do their part. You know, I don't think that they can lay off terrorism any more than an addict can lay off the substance of which they abuse.
Stay tuned to hear about the biggest ever prayer rally held in Israel.
In a time where feelings have become fact, where rational thought and common sense has disappeared, one man stands above it all.
I'm Howie Sobiker, your political hitman.
Political Hitman airs every Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. North American time, 7 a.m. Israeli time, only on Israel News Talk Radio.
Are you interested in transforming your life, drawing closer to the Creator, and uncovering the deeper meanings and hidden treasures in the Hebrew Bible?
Then join me, Rav Yitzhak Michelson,
and me, William Hall,
on the Science of Kabbalah, where we are seeking to narrow the gap between what we understand of our physical and spiritual worlds, So make sure to tune in every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Israel time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on Israel News Talk Radio.
And now, here is the recording of the largest ever prayer meeting held in Israel to this day that took place just before Tisha B'Av in 2005 to ask the Almighty that He averts the evil decree by Prime Minister Sharon to expel all the Jewish communities from Gush Katif.
And at this very moment, with barely 3 days to go to Tisha B'Av, when we lament and mourn the calamities that have befallen the Jewish people throughout the ages, we again stand before a disastrous event for the Jewish people, the expulsion of our brothers and sisters, of men, women and children from their legitimate homes in a part of our country. As we speak, thousands are gathered at the Kotel, the western wall of the temple, at the base of Har HaBayit in Jerusalem, the Temple Mount, Israel's holiest site, the rightful place for the rebuilding of our temple, because the present government of Israel, under the leadership of Prime Minister Sharon, has decided to capitulate to the terrorists and to reward them with Jewish land. That is a decision which the majority of Israelis realize now will lead to even greater problems with our enemies. So they have come in their thousands from all over Israel to take part in the largest ever prayer congregation assembled in one place to pray to the Creator of the world, the guardian of the Jewish people, Hashem, our God, that the evil decree of this despicable government will be rescinded. And now we go over to my colleague, the one and only Eli Stutz. Hello, Eli.
Hi, Walter.
Well, you are there in the midst of it. What's going on?
Well, I'm on the steps that lead down to the Kotel Plaza. I can see the Kotel from here, and there's a lot of people, definitely thousands of Jews, that are trying to get to the Kotel. The reason I'm talking quietly is because right now we're in the midst of the afternoon prayer, section of the prayer where the leader says the blessings after the Amidah, the 18 benediction prayer, and all the other people say amen to each blessing. And it was quite dramatic when a few moments ago we heard the leader saying the Kedusha, which is a very holy part of the prayer. And we say Kadosh, 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 holy, holy, holy is God. And these thousands of Jews all answered in unison, Kadosh, 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 and holy, holy, holy is God. I can't tell exactly how many people there are because I can't see all of the people. What was remarkable is I was on these stairs and they were just packed with people trying to get to the western wall. And as soon as the Kedusha prayer started, everyone stopped. And even now it's a little hard to move. Some people are stopping to pray and answer Amen to each blessing. Amen meaning that they agree with what's being said. That's the meaning of Amen. And some are moving slowly towards the Kotel. There's a lot of orange out here today, a lot of Jews who are supporting Gush Katif, and there are also tourists, also people from all over the world who come to see what's going on here, and it's very inspiring. I didn't think it would start on time, but I guess it has, because we're already into the Mincha prayer.
Who is the leader of the service at this time? Do you know?
I really couldn't tell you. I don't know. He's obviously going out on loudspeaker. I'm not sure if I've ever heard that before, of a prayers at the Kotel to go out on loudspeaker. But I guess it's needed because otherwise the crowd here wouldn't hear it.
Absolutely. And I'm glad to hear that on this occasion they didn't do what they've done before, stop people who were wearing orange coming to the Kotel.
Walter, you'll have to speak up. I couldn't hear your question.
I said I'm glad that on this occasion they didn't do what they've done once or twice before, stopping people who are wearing orange to come in front of the Kotel.
Yes, that's true. I could see a lot of orange in the Kotel Plaza itself.
Orange is the color of protest against the expulsion from Gush Katif.
I don't see too many policemen, actually. I mean, there are policemen around all over the place, but they seem to be sparse. I think they're spread thin a little bit these days, because I know that today was the finishing up practice for the expulsion next week in the south. I just don't believe that they are able to cover all the bases here, these policemen. I think what's different than the other protests that have occurred until now down south, like the marches to Gush Katif and this here at the Kotel, this is us talking to God. This is us, all the Jews, speaking to God directly and asking Him, pleading with Him to help us. Whereas in the past, it was us talking to the world, to the people of Israel, us trying to go somewhere. We got here. We've reached the destination. We were not stopped on the way. And I think that even our current government, with all its erroneous ways, knows enough and has enough Judaism in its heart not to stop Jews to get to the Kotel.
Well, it's heartwarming to hear that so many people have turned up, because I guess it's still quite hot out there, isn't it?
I'm in the shade right now. It's not bad. It's a little hot. It is definitely, I would say the mood here, it's not a mood of a protest. It's a mood of when people go to synagogue and pray. That's the spirit. I mean, as I was coming through to the Kotel, there were stands. People were selling orange T-shirts and orange ribbons. There's the usual, as you approach the Kotel, people on the way raising money for charity, and poor people asking for money. But I think there's something about this place that makes people solemn, makes people speaking in low voices. Many of them are not speaking at all. It's a holy feeling, really.
Eli, as to the police presence, I suppose they realized that at this holy place there would be nothing but prayer, and people will be deep in thought, and there would be no problems at the wall. So they are staying far away.
Well, I'm not sure about that, Walter, because I think the police are concerned that something would happen. Whether it be an Arab attack, I would be concerned about that if I was a policeman right now. Or whether it'll be Jews here getting overexcited. But I agree with you that when it comes to the Jews here are not getting overexcited. We're in prayer right now, and I think that there's no danger of any kind of scuffling between the police, anything of that nature at all. Definitely a different atmosphere here, Walter.
Motzei Shabbat, I was at the Masiyahu prison near Ramleh, where a lot of innocent demonstrators are imprisoned. And I counted something like 25 or so policemen, and they kept well away because they know that these crowds are orderly, and that the instructions from the leadership, in fact, at such occasions are not to get involved in any scuffles or not to be aggressive.
Walter, I'm going to see what I can do about getting maybe somebody else here on the line. Excuse me, sir, do you speak English?
Yeah.
Hello to you.
Yes.
You're talking to Walter Bingham in the studio. What's your name?
Yossi Silverstein.
Yossi, what brings you out today to this?
I'm here from New York. I came for a bar mitzvah for 2 weeks. I'm actually going back tonight, and I had to come tonight here. I heard about this rally. I want to express my solidarity with the Jews in Eretz Israel. We're all here for you in New York, and I'm wearing an orange band. You can't see it on the radio, obviously, but I'm here just to make a strong statement that I'm with you in Eretz Israel. I'm sorry to see that it's happening. Hopefully it won't happen. Mr. Sharon won't, but just wanted to be here with you.
It's wonderful that on the last day of your stay here, you have taken the time to come and be with other Jews here in Israel and to pray that the evil decree which the government has released should be rescinded. When you go back to New York tonight, I wish you Nesiya Tova, a safe journey, and also tell all the people you meet in New York what we are doing here, and that they should all support us and send money to the various funds that help here.
Absolutely. I will spread the good word.
Well, it's very nice to have had you. Thank you very much.
Keep up the good work. Take care.
Thank you very much. Well, we've got another caller from New York on the line, and
okay,
so I
Walter,
leave you, and maybe we come back to you a little later.
Wonderful. Okay, Walter, it's nice to hear you from the station. I wish you were here, and I wish all the listeners were here. It's something else.
Oh, is it Ruth? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
What makes you phone in to this big event today?
Well, I'm sitting at home and trying to come up with ideas that I think that would work, and I have to admit that this thing that's happening is occupying me virtually 24/7, and I can't help but think that somehow the historical thing of Purim, how that happened and how we were saved, could help us today, and that is that to tell everyone to fast, I don't think that's going to work, and especially 3 days, it's not going to work. But just the idea of uniting in prayer. And I was thinking also that on Tisha B'Av, that everyone should really be almost living in their shul, saying Tehillim, and somehow to organize themselves, they can decide on their own, but to somehow use the shofar as well while in prayer, whether it's the Shaliach Tzibor that's using the shofar, but even if individuals, the idea of a shofar really helps to break the heavens, and we really need something.
Ruth, I think that there was a call from the station here for people who are going from Israel to the Kotel to bring a shofar and to blow it. But, of course, up to now, what we heard was the Mincha prayer, the afternoon service, and perhaps was not a suitable occasion to blow the shofar. But I'm quite sure that sometime during this program we should hear the shofar. Well, nice of you.
Could I say one more thing?
Yes, of course.
I also thought that it wouldn't be out of place to tear our garments, as in mourning, because, that is what they did before, Mordechai and Esther, they did, Mordechai especially wore sackcloth and ashes. So, I can't expect that that's a practical idea that's going to be done en masse, but to tear our clothing as in mourning, I don't think is out of place.
Well, at Tisha B'Av, of course, we don't wear our new clothes, and we don't wear good clothes, and we don't wear leather shoes, and we come in just ordinary clothes, and we will immerse ourselves in prayer. And if anybody feels that tearing the clothes as we do when we are mourning, well, that's fine.
May I throw in an advertisement for 770 in New York?
Yes, go on. What's happening there?
Okay, well, tonight at 6:30, between 6:30 and 8, there's a call for men, women, and children to meet at 770. That is, in New York, Eastern Parkway. And, well, everyone can do it in their own shuls if they can organize it. But there are flyers out, there's posters out that they're asking men to leave work early to come to this community gathering. The Rabbonim are going to be there. This is organized by the Rabbi of 770. And we are going to be there from 6:30 to 8, davening together.
Well, anybody listening in New York, make your way to 770 Eastern Parkway. It's in Brooklyn. It's a very big, imposing building, and take part in that prayer meeting, because the more people are immersed in prayer today and in the days leading up to this terrible day, the 15th of this month of August, when they want to expel all the Jews from their homes in Gush Katif and other areas, the more people are immersed in prayer, the more perhaps God will be helping us. Thank you very much, Ruth, for your call. This is a special broadcast where we bring you the events as they're unfolding and happening at the Kotel at the Western Wall in Jerusalem. And now we have our very well-known show host, Tamar Yonah, on the line. Hello, are you there, Tamar?
Hi there, Walter. I'm here. I'm right now in a bus among hundreds of other buses. We're just outside the walls of the old city. On my left-hand side, you see big white stoned walls with the, I guess it's called turrets on top. And it looks like, if anyone remembers the human chain that they had about a year back for Gush Katif, that's what it looks like, of a swarm of people walking to the Western Wall. It's just like a moving human chain. It's just amazing to be here, seeing Haredi, ultra-religious Jews, as well as the orange and the knitted kippah Jews all coming to the Kotel, to the Western Wall, to make prayers and to beseech God that we will win over this evil edict. And I have people here who want to just say something for you. How old are you?
8.
So tell everybody, why are you coming on this rally to pray at the Kotel?
My name is Levi, and I'm 8 years old, and I went to the Kotel Ma'aravi to pray to God. I to save Gush Katif.
All right, thank you. And I have someone else here who was going to say something.
Hi, I'm from Jerusalem. My name is David, and it's an amazing thing to see literally tens and tens of thousands of people on the approach, walking on all the sidewalks and all the roads of approach to the Western Wall. They're walking lines and lines of buses as far as you could see, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of buses and tens of thousands of people all on their way to the Western Wall in order to pray to Almighty God that He should nullify this evil decree that Sharon and his criminal
gang
are doing.
Say it, it's criminal gang.
It's criminal gang, it has to be said. And what he's doing is not only an evil against the security of the state of Israel, it's a crime against humanity, and it's totally immoral. And we're here to pray and hopefully get the Israeli government back on track, get democracy back on track, because we had a referendum. We voted Sharon in, and Sharon's policy was no to unilateral withdrawal. He was completely against unilateral withdrawal. His running opponent was Mitzner, and he was for it. Mitzner was slaughtered. Sharon won the largest election in the history of the democratic nations in the world, in history.
We're running out of time. Just hand me back to Tamar.
Okay, here's Tamar Jonas.
So we'll be speaking with you again when you get a little bit closer.
Okay, and you should be jealous of me that you're not here with me, Walter.
Yeah, I know I would like to be, but somebody's got to sit here in the studio.
That's right. We love you for it.
To hold it all together. So there's Dovi and me together.
Bye.
You with me, Walter Bingham, at the studio in Bethel, a live broadcast. We bring you the events from the largest ever prayer meeting held, and it's held at the Western Wall in Jerusalem, where thousands and thousands are still on their way in buses, we just heard, and walking towards the Western Wall to pray to God, the guardian of Israel, the creator of the world, that this decree, this plan to expel Jews from their own homes in Israel
for political reasons
should be rescinded. It's the very first time in modern history that people have been expelled in their own land. In this case, Jews, expelling Jews in their own land from their homes and sending them into the unknown. In fact, the preparations that have been made to accommodate them, if they ever, God forbid, succeed to do it, are abysmal. I've seen some of the places to which they want to transfer them. People who come out of wonderful homes, beautiful houses with everything that you could wish for, maybe 200 or more square meters, in some cases a lot more, into caravans that have barely 60 meters with all their many children. It is an absolute disgrace because they haven't even made the preparations for it. Well, we're going back to Eli Stutz now. I suppose he's made his way a little bit closer to the wall. Hello, Eli.
Hi, Walter. Actually, I haven't moved an inch. There's so many people here, packed, and traffic is almost at a standstill. People are getting by little through the security gate into the Kotel Plaza, which is full. We're just right now reading a number of psalms. The first one was led responsively by the Chazan, the cantor, and it was chanted back by thousands. Lamnasech means more than David Yancha Hashem biyom tzara. God will answer us in a day of suffering, in a day of trouble. Yishlach ezrecha mikodesh u'mitzion yisadeka. He will send us help from holiness, and from Zion He will help us. All right, now we're having another responsive prayer, as you can probably hear.
We can hear.
I think I'm going to actually respond here while this is going on. Shir Amalon, Esanaya Rim Yavozri.
I can hear everything. That will give the people who are listening out and around in the world a chance to take part. Listeners out there in the world, you are actually taking part in a live rendition of Psalms responsively read.
Yomam Hashemesh lo yakeka v'yareach balayla
Eli, we have all taken part in that. We have another caller, and I'm going to leave you for the time being.
Say, Walter,
Yeah.
I wanted to say that I was standing beside a police officer here.
Yeah.
And I asked him, have you ever seen it so full? And he said, never. And I said, have you been here a lot? And he said, yes. And I said, are you sure you've never seen it like this? And he said, I've never seen it like this.
How many people can you now make an assessment? Because Tamar said earlier on that he was on a bus, and there were lots of buses on the way and lots of people walking still.
I'm sure that there's tens of thousands, but it's hard for me to say, Walter. One thing that's interesting is that this particular gathering has also focused on trying to get Jews of the Haredi sector, ultra-Orthodox Jews, to come, and actually there's 3 standing right in front of me, so clearly that community is also taking part here. We're starting up with another prayer, so I think I'll sign off.
Okay. All right. I will call. Maybe we'll talk to you again a little bit later. Thank you very much, Eli. Thank you. And now we have a caller on the line. Is Danny. Hello, Danny.
Hello there.
Where are you exactly in the crowd?
I'm standing on the plaza surrounded by thousands of people, a mass of people.
So, Danny, why did you choose tonight to come to the wall?
Well, I was invited.
No, you're too frivolous. I know you.
Give expression to one's discomfort with what the situation is through prayer. And I'm participating like many like-minded people.
Well, I do hope that the prayers tonight will reach where they are supposed to reach Hashem's ears, and that he will have Rachmanis.
Well,
I'm quite emotional here, as you might be able to detect from my voice. I hope that Hashem will have Rachmanis with the Jewish people, and that he will see that this is leading to no good at all.
Walter, I share your sentiments, but I'm well aware that Hashem does have Rachmanis on the Jewish people. I'm just hoping that this will have an effect on the Jewish people so that they will be able to have Rachmanis on themselves and realize that they're doing a very pitiful thing to themselves. And it's certainly not going to lead to...
Well, it is, of course, true that Hashem helps those who help themselves, and it is up to us, really, as we are doing now, to help ourselves, to pray and to implore this government to leave off this plan, because it can lead to no good. Danny, thank you very much. Are you with anybody else that wants to speak?
I have various people around me. I'm not sure if...
Well, if there's anybody who speaks English and wants to say a few words to the world here on Israel National Radio, on Arutz Sheva.
People are in the midst of gathering right now and saying their Tehillim.
Okay, thank you very much, Danny. Well, you heard that people are so engrossed in prayer that they even unable to come to a telephone to speak. I nearly broke down for a moment or two when I asked that Hashem should have Rachmanis, and of course Danny said that people should have Rachmanis on themselves. Of course, it is true that we cannot just sit and hope that God will act. We have to show, first of all, that we are worthy of it, and secondly, that we too are doing something. And what we can do is not only to go to the hotel or in other meetings and engross ourselves in prayers, saying Tehillim, but we must also at the same time do the other thing to show politically that we cannot condone such terrible actions which will only bring ruin to the country, because it is, as every right-minded person says, this is only encouraging the terrorists. They are already preparing to dance and to celebrate. So we really must act in any, of course, lawful way possible. There's another caller we have on the line. He's Akiva from Chicago. Hello, Akiva.
It's good to speak with you, Walter. I had to wait a little while. Frankly, I was a little choked up with emotion. I just wanted to speak about a time that I was in a prayer rally in Jerusalem when I was a student at Mahon Meir back in December of 1998, and it was a very, very dry winter. It was so dry. It was so dry that they fished a Syrian MiG out of the Kinneret. It was so low. And there was a prayer rally concerning the Supreme Court, and for the first time in that entire winter, it rained. It rained. So prayer, it will make a difference. And just want to hear you talking about how the wall is all orange. And
it's a very, very hard time. Are the Jews in Chicago doing anything?
There's a rally that's held every Sunday against a group called Not in My Name. So I'm not able to go to that every week, and there were Slichot prayers on the last fast day. So there is something that's happening. However, I'm kind of disappointed at the reaction of the Jews of the city of Chicago. I really, really think that they need to be doing more. Everyone needs to be doing more support. I really don't have anything much more to say.
I think that Jews need to come to Israel, even if it's only on a visit at this stage, to see exactly what goes on here. Because as you all live in your comfortable homes in the suburbs of Chicago, go about your businesses, you don't really feel it. You're thinking about your own daily life, while we here in Israel are continually immersed in the problem of terrorism, in the problem of the expulsion plan, and perhaps when people come and visit us and take part and see, and those who were here and had an opportunity to see Gush Katif, how wonderful the place is, there's I believe it's in the plan to destroy some 80-odd synagogues, both in the Gaza area and in the Shomron, and swimming pools, libraries, quite apart from people's houses, community centers, all that to be destroyed, and the area given as a prize for terrorism.
This is what I tell everyone here. We need to think about the day after. And what is the day after? The day after, what people need to do here is Aliyah. I mean, I and my wife are making Aliyah next year.
Are you wonderful. Well, are you going with Nefesh B'Nefesh? Say again, you're breaking up. Speak a little louder.
Yes. We're coming next year, B'Ezrat Hashem.
Well, we hope to see you there and welcome you, because Israel National Radio, Arutz Sheva, is always at the airport, whatever time of day it is, when the flights arrive. And if you see us there, come up to us and tell us who you are and that you came.
There's still an application for a Saba.
Ah, okay.
You still have an application there. My granddaughter would love to see you. Or my daughter would love to see you.
Well, there you are. So,
thank you.
Akiva, I know who you are, and I know that you've sent me some emails. The Saba is here. Okay.
We are broadcasting from the Kotel. This is Dovi Holtz. I came on since Walter will be back here in the studio in just 1 second. I just wanted to talk about the importance of the prayer rallies at all, and understanding that we have to talk, we have to speak to God, we have to tell Him what we feel, because otherwise He's not going to listen to us. Here, we're back to Walter.
We have a caller from London. Are you there?
Yes.
It's Zev Gruber from London, who has a weekly radio program in London. Yes, Zev, you know that we are in the midst of a live reportage with various people who are at the hotel with tens of thousands of people.
It's an extraordinary event going on. Absolutely amazing. And I just wanted to thank you for putting me on.
So what's going on in London?
In London, I just wanted to tell the British listeners, and not necessarily, but anyone who can come and around Israel, there's a Gush Katif solidarity rally, a vigil, a march, if you can take that all in, all together. That's starting the Monday evening coming up after Tisha B'Av, the next day, 6 p.m. London time, starting at Golders Green Tube Station in northwest London. We believe it's going to be absolutely an amazing, extraordinary event for London terms. A lot of work has gone into over the past few weeks.
Who is organising it?
I'm from a committee who has come together to organise it, which includes leaders of Likud Chirut UK and the Batai youth movement and several other individuals. We got together several weeks ago and have been planning this event and the strategies, etc. So it's several people involved.
How many do you expect to turn up there? Because London is fairly relaxed about the whole thing.
Fairly liberal. But we hope to have at least 100, but the possibilities are up to 500.
So thank you very much for calling in.
Thank you for putting me on.
We wish you luck, and hope that you also have a comfortable fast, and that Hashem will listen to our prayers. And now I'm going back to Eli Stutz, who has some more to tell us.
Okay, Walter, right now we're hearing a Sephardic prayer led by a great Sephardic rabbi. It could be Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu himself. I'm not sure because I can't see him. I'm still here up on the stairs and amidst crowds of people. I'm not even sure which prayer it is that they're praying. Maybe I can ask this fellow here.
You should have brought your binoculars with you.
We're given some booklets here with the prayers that are being said, and this prayer starts with the words Ashrei Tmimei Darech, Haluchim B'Torat Hashem, which means how happy are those who are pure in their way, who walk with the Torah of God. And it's being said fairly quickly, actually, led by the chanter, Chazan. Walter, I'm not sure if you have anyone else online, but I think I'm going to have to get off at this point.
Thank you very much, Eli.
Walter, thank you.
And I wish I'd have been there with you, but as I said, somebody's got to be here.
You're doing an important job by bringing it to the people, Walter.
Okay, bye-bye, Eli. Well, there you heard it. It's prayer after prayer, and I think Dovi has something to say to us.
It's so important what we're doing here. I mean, what the Kotel prayer, the Kotel rally, not specifically what you and me are doing it, even though that has its importance as well. But we really have to understand that really what's going to win this is not what we're doing only. I mean, even though we have to do that, but what's going to win this is God. And God is going to win this throughout in a few ways. The first one is praying, which is what we're doing there now at the Kotel. And the second one is actually doing stuff that show how important this is to us. I mean, for example, the marches that are supposed to be towards Gush Katif and the people infiltrating and getting into Gush Katif, I really hope that we manage to impress upon God, so to speak, how important this is to us, because otherwise we're really in trouble.
Dovi, you are an active activist. You've taken part in rallies, in marches. You went down trying to infiltrate Gush Katif and couldn't quite manage it, were arrested in the process. Let's just project forward, supposing at this point God is not willing to act and Jews would be expelled. In which way will God help further? How should we proceed if we can't be heard today?
I'm not willing to think of an option. For me, the moment you start thinking in that option, the moment you think that option is viable, then that means that option could actually happen. And I don't believe in that. And you know what? If God proves me wrong, then that'll be God's will. But I am not going to go down that alley, that way, for God. That God has to decide that, and I have to decide as much as I can, how do I stop that?
I like that answer, Dovi. I think that was the right one, too. Well, we are fast approaching the end of this very special broadcast, which came to you from the studios of Bet El, live. Together, pray that this meeting will have had an effect and all the other meetings have an effect, and that with God's help we will avert this terrible deed that the government has in store for us. Oh, we have Tamar on the line. Hello, Tamar.
Hello there.
Yeah, hello, I can hear you.
Hi, Walter. Well, I'm at the Kotel, but I'm standing behind some glass doors at the Shah Ashpa. This is one of the gates leading in. I see the Kotel. I see the Dome of the Rock in front of me. One day may it be gone soon. And there's helicopters above of news crews. The place is packed. We can't even get into the Kotel area. We cannot get to the Western Wall. I've never seen it so packed with people before in my over 25 years of being in the country.
Tamar, we're running out of time. It's 7 o'clock, and so we have to close the program. And thank you very much for...
All right, just to let you know that there are thousands of more people on their way coming.
Yeah,
there are thousands of people in line waiting to get in, and we can't. It's so packed. It's a sanctification of God's name. May we be on the Temple Mount. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
And so I end this extended program with a sad conclusion that God had his reasons not to grant our prayers, and Gush Katif was handed over to our enemies. As we know today, it has become a base for Hamas and terrorism, and serves as a warning to those in our government who believe that giving land will achieve peace with the Arabs who live in our midst. As Gush Katif has shown, this would in fact achieve the opposite. And with that thought, I leave you until next week, when I hope to be back again with more from Israel and the rest of the Jewish world. This is Walter Bingham, wishing you a good weekend. Very importantly, in these COVID times, please see if your elderly neighbor is well and has what he or she needs. Goodbye.
Where can you get the inside news on Israel? At Israel News Talk Radio, we're dedicated to sharing Israel's inside story with the world by providing our listeners with news on Israeli politics, current affairs, and Israeli Jewish culture. The Israel News Talk Radio homepage also provides you, the listener, with useful information at your fingertips, with scrolling news headlines, weather, currency exchange, Shabbat candlelighting times, and so much more. Our radio programming is always accessible and on demand. We operate absolutely free of charge for everyone, everywhere. If you love what we do, partner with us now by becoming an Israel News Talk Radio supporter. With your support, you'll be inscribed on our Israel News Talk Radio Wall of Fame. There's nothing like us in the world. Be part of something great. Israel News Talk Radio. Straight talk from Israel.
Howdy, this is Rita from League City, Texas, now living in Israel. And though my heart may have belonged to Texas, it now belongs to Israel and all the fantastic show hosts at Israel News Talk Radio.
Hi, this is Michael Solomon from Kiryat Arba, Israel. And why do I love listening to Israel News Talk Radio? Because I love listening to the interesting interviews they do and their news reporting that most other media sources don't cover.
Hey, this is Nicoleko from Malmö, Sweden. It gets pretty cold here in Sweden, so I love cuddling up with a warm cup of tea while I listen to Israel News Talk Radio.
Hey everybody, this is Frank Morris from Tennessee. Me and my dog Buster really love listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.